Well, Tesla's hardware 4 is well and truly here. It looks like pretty much all of the new vehicles they're manufacturing have hardware 4 in them now, and certainly the Project Highland Model 3 and eventually the Project Juniper Model Y will have hardware 4 in them. But there's a big catch to getting the latest and greatest hardware, and that is that you don't get access to full self-driving beta. Let's take a look. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. So I'm going to start with my shirt. You can pick this up in the merch store. The best paint is no paint, obviously, with the Cybertruck on here. I'm wearing this on purpose today because, of course, the Cybertruck is going to fall into the category of vehicles that are not going to get full self-driving for a while. In fact, my projection is it's going to take a significant amount of time longer than the S3, X, and Y vehicles with hardware 4 getting full self-driving beta. And before we launch into the discussion about hardware 4 and full self-driving beta, I want to make a quick note that it looks like China is actually getting some OG testers, like original testers for full self-driving beta, and it looks like maybe Australia and some other countries are getting that as well. So that's very exciting news. That means that Tesla is starting to expand this out to other countries. If Australia is true, again, this is all rumors at this point, but if that's true, that's actually a left-hand drive country, and that's actually a really big deal because, of course, that's like, it's a whole shift for how full self-driving beta has to work, obviously, since everything has to get shifted over to the left instead of the right. So I'll obviously keep an eye on that and let you know about any further developments. And just FYI, this lack of full self-driving beta is actually one of the reasons I'm very hesitant about upgrading our Model Y to a current version and transferring our full self-driving license for free at this point till the end of September. Still thinking about it. I don't know which way I'm going to fall on that. The other reason, of course, is the $7,500 tax credit. It's very confusing. I believe the best knowledge I have at this point is that what you can do is, if you're married, each person in the couple can get one $7,500 tax credit per year, but there's some funkiness to it. We both ended up registering ourselves for our Model 3 purchase back in March, which means that we're both on the registration for that vehicle. So there's some question about whether we're allowed to get another tax credit with the Model Y. Anyway, if there are any CPAs out there or anybody who really knows the details about this, please do contact me on X or let me know in the comments below or something like that, because I definitely want to find out about that. But anyway, those are the two big things holding me back. Project Juniper Model Y is like, yeah, okay, that'll be great, but it's about 6 months away. And it's one of those things where it's like, I probably won't feel too bad if I don't get all of this stuff, but I really do want hardware 4, and I'd like to get the more refined body and everything with more giga casting and everything in it. More on that in a minute, but first, I know that all of us want to learn way more than we have time for. I mean, look at all these books back here. Yeah, I've read a bunch of them, but not all of them. Well, let me tell you, Shortform and the all-new Shortform AI extension are the answer you've been looking for. They make the world's best guides to nonfiction books. It's like book summaries on steroids. And not only do they have amazing summaries of books, but they also have great summaries of current articles like this one on moldy cheese. I read it and sent that one to my wife because we have very different feelings about eating moldy foods. And if you thought that wasn't awesome enough, Shortform now has a Chrome extension called Shortform AI that summarizes anything on the internet, including YouTube videos. For example, let's look at this recent archive article on Pegasus, which is a large language model. We just go over to the right here, click the Shortform icon, and in a few seconds, we get a summary of the entire article with the main points. And if that's not enough, Shortform adds context, counter arguments, and links to where you can learn more about the topic. Let's take a look at Lex Fridman's recent interview with Mark Andreessen. It clocks in at over 3 hours. And in seconds, you get a summary of everything they discuss, some really useful context about AI, and some excellent links that I looked at about ChatGPT, brief history of artificial intelligence, and about AI regulation. Let me tell you, Shortform and Shortform AI are true game changers for me. And if this sounds exciting to you, you can get a 25% discount on Shortform, which includes unlimited access to Shortform AI at my link shortform.com/Dr. Know-It-All, or scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description. So what are you waiting for? Get 25% off, get access to all of Shortform's library, and also get access to the Shortform AI Chrome extension, and start learning and retaining more today. Now let's get back to it. So for argument's sake, let's say that we do go ahead and purchase a new Model Y with hardware 4 in it. What are the consequences of that? As many people on X, including Jake S., who did a really good job of breaking down exactly what hardware 3 and hardware 4 look like in terms of cameras and stuff, you get much, much better cameras. They're much better at low light. They're much better at producing visual images that look more reasonable to the human eye. So generally speaking, you get a much nicer looking camera system. Of course, the other thing you get is hardware 4 under the hood. Of course, you can't see that because it's behind the glove box someplace. That is a significant upgrade over hardware 3, and over the coming years, there are going to be many advantages to driving vehicles with hardware 4 on them. But I said over the years. Currently, right now, if you purchase a vehicle, and people have found this out, of course, this is not my speculation on this. If you purchase a vehicle with hardware 4 in it right now, you do not get access to full self-driving beta. And I think this confuses a lot of people. A lot of people are like, why would I not get this? I've got better hardware, I've got better cameras, all this stuff. Why would I not get access to full self-driving beta? So it's time to take a step back and look at the bigger picture, which is how neural networks train themselves. So in order to train any neural network, I mean, talking about Stable Diffusion, Midjourney, ChatGPT, full self-driving, whatever, you name it, any of these kind of things that are trained with neural networks are done on big data. So they take a large data set, whatever that is, driving or language or something like that, and then they throw it at an architecture. So the architecture, remember that the neural network is just a gigantic tensor, which is a matrix to multiple dimensions. It's a huge tensor full of numbers, and those numbers get multiplied and added by the input signal to produce an output signal. So all those things are inside. There's nothing magic about it. The magic is just the fact that there's billions of them. So you get emergent behavior that is a little bit surprising, more than a little bit surprising. But anyway, at its heart, it's just multiply and add, multiply and add, multiply and add. And as you're doing the training, you figure out what's wrong, and then you back propagate it through the entire system to adjust the weights of these numbers inside this giant tensor. And the rub to all of this is that these numbers, which are termed weights in neural network parlance, so you can interchange that, right? When people talk about neural network weights, they're talking about just these numbers that things get multiplied by, and those numbers get tweaked through feedback as you're doing training. Anyway, all of those numbers are completely dependent on the input source and what you're going to get into it, and then obviously what you get out of it. So the input source, the fact that we have different cameras, they look different, the pixel values are different, the amount of pixels is different, all of that stuff, even though to human eyes, you're like, yeah, okay, I see a car in that picture and a tree in the background or something. So to us, it's like, yeah, it looks the same, more or less, right? It just looks like a better quality picture. That is entirely different to the neural network. The neural network looks at that and goes like, I have no idea what that thing is, right? So it's trained on these hardware 3 cameras, and it understands what that input is, and it's specific to it, and it understands that when you switch over to hardware 4, when the cameras look different, when they have more pixels, when they have higher resolution, when the color values and things like that are different, that is entirely new. This is something that the neural network looks at and just throws up its hands and says, I have no idea what this is, please help me. So it doesn't understand this at all, which means that you have to go back, you have to collect new data sets using hardware 4 specifically, and you have to retrain the network to understand these new inputs. And so what that necessitates is, number one, having a large fleet of hardware 4, and there are relatively few hardware 4 vehicles out there. Obviously, that's changing every day as we get more and more and more of these vehicles out there. And number two, you have to have the time to suck in all of that data and retrain these networks using the new input, the new camera input for this hardware. Now, several months ago, before the introduction of hardware 4, I speculated that what Tesla might do is add a little layer at the beginning that would dumb down the images from hardware 4 to make them look like hardware 3. Clearly, that's not what Tesla did. It would add a lot of latency, and there'd be a lot of issues with that, but my thought was that hardware 4 was fast enough that it would be able to deal with it enough to make it look like hardware 3. But that's a huge amount of effort on Tesla's AI team's part to do something which is really ultimately not necessary and honestly just kind of gets in the way. So obviously the direction that they took was, we're just going to collect the data for hardware 4 and we're going to train it, and then after some months we will be able to produce something that is approximately equivalent to what you're seeing from hardware 3 right now. And when that happens, what you're going to get is a new set of OG testers, the folks like Dirty Tesla at Hallmark's Catalog, K10, those guys who got the first versions of full self-driving beta with hardware 3. There's going to be a new group of those people, probably some overlap, but there are going to be people, I'm pretty sure Chuck Cook is not going to upgrade his vehicle. I don't know. Anyway, but there will be a group of people who will be the original testers. So you'll see it go out to like 1,000 people or something like that first. Then they'll have to do some tweaking and fixing and all of that kind of stuff. And then it will start to spread out, and you'll see it over time go out to more and more of the hardware 4 users till eventually it gets to all of them. So how long is that going to take? I'm projecting maybe by the end of the year, we'll start seeing that. It's a complete guess, but I think by the end of the year, we'll see some group of people, a smallish group of people with hardware 4 able to test out full self-driving beta on their own. And that will then rapidly increase and become as good as or better than hardware 3. I also think that there's a high degree of likelihood that Tesla has just skipped over version 11 of the software stack, and they're moving directly to version 12 of that with hardware 4. It seems like it would be logical because version 12 is going to be such a major step change. If you haven't seen my videos on that, check it out up here. Anyway, this is just all speculation. I don't have any inside information, but my speculation is that they're going to try to synchronize the release of full self-driving beta to hardware 4 with the version 12 release of the software. Anyway, just my speculation, and I'm guessing somewhere around the end of the year, late November into December, somewhere in that range. And that, of course, brings us to the reason I'm wearing my shirt today, the Cybertruck. So the Cybertruck is a very differently shaped beastie, and I believe it's going to have more cameras than the S3, X, and Y vehicles. So we're going to be looking at a very, very different data set, and we're going to start very small, right? You're only going to have a few Cybertrucks out there originally because, of course, they have to ramp production. So even though the internal hardware of the Cybertruck, the cameras and the hardware 4 are going to be the same, the shape of the body and the inputs and all of that are going to be very, very different. And compounded on top of that, you're going to have a very small number of Cybertrucks on the road to start with, and it's going to take time to get to hundreds of thousands and then 1 million plus Cybertrucks. So I'm projecting that we could be looking at least the end of 2024 before we see significant advances in full self-driving beta for the Cybertruck. And that's one of the reasons I'm not particularly upset that I'm, somewhere around 500,000 in line, and it's going to take several years for us to get the Cybertruck, because I think the first people who get it are not going to get a lot of the benefits of driving it around with full self-driving. It's going to take a long time. Again, that's on me. I could be wrong. Day one, they might be like, look, we've got full self-driving on the Cybertruck. I don't know how they would do that, but it is possible. There are a bunch of madmen there. These people are amazing at what they do. But my projection is we're probably looking at a year and 4 or 5 months before we realistically have a chance of seeing full self-driving on a Cybertruck. Again, I think the delivery event is going to happen mid-September to early October, somewhere in that range. So after that event, we'll be looking at 15 to 18 plus months before we actually see full self-driving in the Cybertruck. So if you're looking at purchasing a Model 3, a Model Y, Model S, Model X, that kind of stuff, I don't think you're going to have all that long of a time to wait for full self-driving beta to arrive, but it will probably be the end of this year. Again, that's totally my speculation. I could very well be wrong, so take it with a grain of salt. But I think if you're looking to, drive, if you have an early reservation number for the Cybertruck and you're looking to use full self-driving on day one, that is not going to happen. I'm very confident of that, even though, again, it's on me if I make a mistake, but I'm very confident that it's going to take a good long while before Cybertruck has full self-driving beta, because the vehicle is such a different shape, and it's going to require a forking of the software architecture to make it actually functional for the Cybertruck and fine-tune it for that vehicle. So while hardware 4 is very, very exciting, and it's clearly the key to the future, and while Project Highland Model 3, Project Juniper Model Y, and the Cybertruck are all very exciting vehicles, and you can really get, amped up about them, just understand that the consequence of getting this new hardware is that you're not going to be enjoying full self-driving beta for a period of time. I don't know exactly how long. Again, my projection is for the vehicles that are out right now, it'll be the end of this year approximately. And for the Cybertruck, it'll be the end of next year approximately. But hey, the good news is that these vehicles are a ton of fun to drive, and they have a huge number of benefits over the old vehicles. And of course, as we move into the future, hardware 4 is really going to come into its own, and you're going to see the full self-driving capabilities of hardware 4 far exceed the capabilities of hardware 3. So eventually there will be a really big benefit. It's just going to take some time, so you're going to have to be patient. All right, I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it fun and interesting and thought-provoking, and maybe helps explain the whole situation with hardware 4 and the reason we're having to wait on full self-driving beta with that. It is very complicated to retrain networks with different inputs and everything. It's just the nature of the machine learning beast. Anyway, if you did enjoy the video, please do like it so other people can find it, and of course consider subscribing subscribing for more of this kind of content. As always, a huge shout out to my patrons on Patreon, my YouTube channel members, and of course my ex-subscribers. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel in any way that you can. I truly do appreciate it. And of course, if you want to join any of the teams, just check out the links in the description. And if you're interested in a whole bunch of really cool merch, check out our merch store. Link is in the description. We have TeslaBot t-shirts, the Tesla meme t-shirt, success is a possible outcome, 4680 battery cells. All of that stuff is on t-shirts, mugs, tumblers, and on. So check it out. And finally, thanks once again to Shortform and Shortform AI for sponsoring today's video. Check out the link in the description and find out just how much more productive you can be with Shortform. In the meantime, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.